Ready.
So, good afternoon and good morning, wherever you are in the art world. The Art Talks are delighted to welcome you all to this very, very inspiring art talk for this very special issue of the Art Talk magazine, the pink issue, in support of breast cancer awareness and research. So tonight we have this wonderful group, and we start with Friday Jones, a trailblazing tattoo artist. Started all this wonderful story here, but then we have Helen Ho, photographer, artist, and the two heroes, warrior, cancer warriors, Sabine and Jan. Welcome you all to the Art Talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina.
So you are all based in New York?
Yes.
Well, pretty much New York area. Yep.
New York area. Okay, fantastic. So we would like to start with Friday because, as I said, she is the puzzle, the piece of this puzzle of this wonderful community. Friday, you have an amazing, touching story that we could actually write a book about you. But can you tell us, how did it all start? What was your inspiration with, starting with the tattoos, but also especially with the inspiration behind the scar coverage tattoos for women affected by breast cancer came to you?
Well, Carolina, my journey with tattoo art started about 32 years ago when I was in my early 20s. I was a young divorcee. Was an artist. I worked in an art room doing line work for T-shirts for the United States Post Office. So I was doing a lot of eagles. And I didn't enjoy that much. I really wanted a connection. I wanted to be an artist that worked directly with people. And on my way to university in Florida, I realized I could be a tattoo artist and have that experience. Now, in 1991, I think we'd all agree tattooing was not something that young women got involved in by any means. But again, I was already, a divorcee, and I was going to university. I was ready to start a new life, and I knew I wanted to be an artist, and it ended up being tattooing. I've worked did an apprenticeship and got my philosophy degree, which really helped my outlook on why we get tattooed, why we get marked, and the symbols involved and behind it, time-honored symbols, multicultural symbols. I went to Los Angeles. I tattooed a few starlets and some rock stars. I saw where tattooing can go. But increasingly, especially with clients like Angelina Jolie, where she was getting tattooed and she was out in front and she was very public about her struggles in life and how maybe honoring herself with a mark helped her soldier through those choices she made. And that, along with a lot of the shop culture at the time, tattoo shops were bikers and gangsters and tough guys, as we all remember. And we needed just maybe a safer place for women to go, women and people of color and different gender identities. So that evolved into a Manhattan space on Fifth Avenue, which was really gorgeous, had cucumber water and Chardonnay, and we could have privacy and speak spiritual ideas. We weren't subject to ridicule from these maybe different mentalities. And after a few years of that, we had a lot of attention internationally from that business model. And I had a surgeon approach me, and he asked me if I was interested in doing nipples on breast cancer patients, which I had no idea was a thing. And it opened up a whole world to me. And I had a client approach me for seashells on her breasts, like a mermaid. Actually, she wanted flowers, and I saw seashells on her, and it was 2002, 12 when we did that, and that was, it made the cover of Tattoo magazine. I'm a big industry magazine, and the whole idea caught fire.
Incredible story. Because as you say, there is always a story behind each tattoos, but a story behind each person, and it's really it's so touching. It's so personal, but it could make such a difference in your life, as you said. But what I would love to hear from you also, that I love bleed for freedom. What does it mean? I love this.
Carolina, so you're talking about I have a catchphrase, and it's bleed for
Yes.
freedom. And I'm from a big military family. Like, we're fighter pilots and Pentagon guys, and emphasis on the guys, and protect your people. And as I became a tattoo artist, and as I became to do this craft and seeing how people's lives were changed from it, I realized that there's freedom in this mark. There's freedom in self-expression. And so it's a little ironic, bleed for freedom. But that's what we're doing. And I think Sabina and Jan would agree.
Yes, and then we'll listen to Sabine and Jan very, very soon. All of us women, we're going through different phases in our lives, and yet again we find there is another renaissance and another moment of your life, and it's so beautiful. It's such an empowering moment. I think it's anything that I found in your, looking at your beautiful website, is about these white tattoos, which is something that I never seen, for instance, only through you.
Well, happily, because there are so few women involved in tattooing up until about 2005, when the TV shows became, and Instagram became viable. There's not very many women in. So the women's needs were quite clear. They would come into a shop and innocently want a fine line job, maybe their mother's signature from the last letter she left before she passed, or something subtle, white ink tattoo that she could have her mark but not blare her emotions to the world, which, by the way, judge us very strictly anyway. So yeah, you could and then the atmosphere itself, having a peaceful place to get tattooed, yeah, we blew up. It was needful, and now again, more women than men are tattooed in the West. So these men don't want to do white ink tattoos. They think women are not real tattoos, and women are picky and difficult, and all these lies, whatever. Anyway, it's just pure white ink. It's just white ink, and there's some different techniques that you have to use. It's a little bit more sophisticated than just doing a black ink tattoo. There's some things to consider, which we go over. But yeah, you can get it done, but very few of us will practice it, unfortunately, because I think it's very elegant.
Every tattoo, it's people's dreams, hopes, wishes, and it must be. Do you feel anxious every time doing these tattoos? It's a powerful statement of love and life, as you said, or memory.
Carolina, you're right. It is an intense art. This is an intense art. We are drilling. We have solid needles, pins that we are drilling into your tissues, filling them with ink, pulling it out. It's a penetrating experience, and you suffer for it. You're suffering for this. So on top of that risk that your clients take, me as the artist in this hand art, yeah, it's intense. I like to live intensely. I have this intense personality, and yeah, I always, the challenge, you've got to face it down, and you've got to be strong for your client. And it took many years to get onto that other side where you're confident enough and you can hold their hands while they're having perfect faith in you.
Bello, beautiful. because you haven't answered me to this question. Yes.
You were so good because she said, "Do you have any tattoos to speak to your work with survivors?" And I said, "I don't have one, and I need one, and it's time to get one this October." Because I have to speak at the International Plastic Surgeons Convention in Austin in October. I'm training the medical folk how to do nipple tattoos, 3D nipple tattoos. So that's when I'm going to get it. One of my colleagues in Austin. Get something. I'm taking advice too. Anything you all think I should get?
Okay. Here, next to you, of course, I see it. I see Helen, who is been photographing this wonderful, moments. And through your lenses, we got to see what Friday does, and it was so beautiful and touching. Again, so tell us a bit your story. So you started. You're in New York. You're based in New York, and you've always been working a lot on this, on creating awareness.
I'm from New York originally, and I didn't start off in photography. I actually studied psychology in my undergrad because I wanted to work with people and I wanted to make some sort of an impact. But the more I was studying psychology, the less I felt like I was able to do that and make like a positive difference. So then I just found this random book on the floor. And it was a book by Eugene W. Smith, who was a war photojournalist, but he had like a very humanistic approach. So I felt like photographs really spoke to me, and I felt very emotionally connected to visual images. And I felt that I could maybe one day do more by capturing other moments of humanity. So fast forward a few years, I'm working at a tattoo retail shop, and I always got along great with Friday. She was always coming in with these crazy stories. And I would see her every now and then because she's always traveling, doing all this stuff. And then I noticed that she was always picking up flesh-toned inks, and like different shades of skin tone. So I asked her, like, what are these specific for? And that really opened up to like how impactful this work is. These tattoos are, I feel like all tattoos must mean a lot for the people getting them, but especially after so much has been going on, it was just really empowering to hear her doing this and like for her to stop in and like pull out these inks. I felt really drawn to it, and then we finally like penciled out a day where I followed her around, and this project has been going on for I think about a year now. Friday, a year and a few months. I think the first time we worked together was last March, and I've been really lucky to meet all these amazing women. And I just get to sit there for 2 or 3 hours and like soak up everyone's stories. And in a way, they're all very similar in their own flavors. Like they talk about how they've kind of rebuilt themselves and how there's these like peaks and valleys, and like I get to see the tail end of all of this trauma and all of the stuff that they've been through. And it's really so incredible to just sit there and like listen while they're getting tattooed. But yeah, this has just been, it's always a pleasure. And like I always like, I feel like I've cried a few times throughout this.
It must
it's
be
really
very emotional.
Yeah, Friday does beautiful work, and like she really touches all of these women so much, and I just get to capture that, and I get to learn so much from being around all these strong women, and I feel very lucky to be a part of this.
Beautiful, really, because you know what I saw, it's what you said, it's the reclaiming your body. And again, we will speak to Sabine and Jan, you know, to see something so beautiful as Friday's empowering your body to be you again. I think it's with such a beautiful work of art. It is extraordinary, Friday. I never seen something so beautiful.
Thank you so much. It's so strange because I would say that also these women that make these choices, they're going beyond what they were before as well. And they often speak to that, that's the evolution of survival as well.
Yeah,
It is.
Sabine is actually the first woman that I met in this project. And I had never seen what a reconstructed breast looked like. And one of her things that she first said was like, "Have you ever seen a breast like this before?" And then it was so new for me. Like I didn't know the language, I didn't know what to expect. And she mentioned this idea of chrysalysis. Am I pronouncing it right? I only see it. Uh, it's like this transformation that happens, and I feel like that word pops into my head each time I go in. Like it's just this total reemergence of like a cocoon into like a butterfly, and you come out like even better and like brighter.
Many friends, as I was telling you before, many artists and friends that went through, what you had to go through or are going through in this moment. And we felt as the Art Talk magazine that we needed to support them, by creating this book, the pink issue, just to, with all the artists that actually some of them had already, had breast cancer and they're there, and some are going through, and or their mothers, or any sisters or daughters had to go through this, very challenging moment. So thank you so much for being here, Sabine.
Yes, thank you, Catalina. And thank you for doing this project. I told Friday and Helen too, I'm very passionate about trying to bring beauty out of, the ravages of what cancer does to you. And it sort of brings, at least for me, a smile on my face every morning when I see myself undressed, or every evening. I'll give you a little bit of the background. So I was diagnosed about 9 years ago. I knew nothing about breast cancer. It wasn't on the radar. I never even read any. I mean, I would just hear about it, but I didn't know really anybody impacted by it. And I had never even had a scare. And they found it during a mammogram, and I had to have a bilateral mastectomy as well as chemo and radiation. I was after the bilateral mastectomy, they already started doing the reconstruction. And so I did have implants in, but then when I went through the radiation, I got an infection. And so only on one side. So I had to go through emergency surgery and have the one implant removed. Plus all the skin was black, and they had to do skin grafts from my back. And they had to undo the whole thing. And there was a surgery called, I think it's called the backlat or something, where then they took my back muscle and wrapped it around to put the basket in for the implant just on the one side, but they didn't even know if that would work. So there was for quite a while, I would say one boob in and one boob out, but it looked terrible because I'd have an implanted boob or breast, which didn't look like a regular breast anyways. And then I had this gnarled mass, if you've ever seen, and I hadn't seen before I had all the surgery, what it looks like when you have a mastectomy. You're somewhat concave, and it just gnarled. It's not like flat, it's lumpy, gnarled. So for a long time I had one. And then I sort of laughed because you can't even wear a bra, because I had the implant holding the one side, and the other one, it would just ride up, and I had to stuff it, and it was just a nightmare. But anyways, so also going through the chemo and the radiation, I lost all my hair, lost the eyebrows, lost everything. And you can imagine how the radiation wrecks your body. So looking at myself in the mirror is like, what is this? I mean, it's just a strange feeling, and not really knowing what's going to happen after this. And then, as I said, once I had the radiation, and they took the skin grafts, and I had so many scars because on especially the one side is because they had to do the skin graft, so it looked like a patchwork quilt on my breast with all the scars, and it was discolored and so on and so forth. And then I actually did have about probably I would say 10 surgeries after that for cosmetic, just to make it look, somewhat normal. And they had to be careful with because of the infection and so forth. And so I knew even before, I mean, when I was first diagnosed, they were talking about, I hoped I could spare my nipples, but they couldn't. And then they were talking about making little nipples, or doing the 3D nipple tattoos. And I thought that sounded like a great idea. I saw pictures, and it was really unbelievable what they could do. And that, it really looks real. Like you felt like you wouldn't be so deformed per se. And then, so, I was thinking about it, and this is now like 5-6 years after being diagnosed. I was like, but wait a minute. If they can tattoo a nipple, can't they do something else? Maybe there's something prettier out there. Nobody says I have to stay with this. And, I think I said it to a few of my friends. Are like, what? You're nuts. Like, yeah, that's me. But anyway, yeah. And so then I just started researching it. And, of course, knowing probably the skin, I was concerned a little bit about how would the skin take it, and being cancerous and so forth. So I did a lot of research.
So
And
here we are.
yeah,
It's incredible. It's incredible
yeah.
because
And
it's a work of art. It's so beautiful. But did you choose with Friday, or how?
Yes. So then I thought, I was just looking at different ideas, and I thought, you know what, flowers, because I love flowers. And I did a lot of research, and it took a long time because to find a tattoo artist that does mastectomy tattoos, because they're very specialized. And it was a hard way. It took quite a long time to find. I think there were people in Europe, but I didn't, surprisingly enough, couldn't find anybody in New York. I found Friday. I didn't realize, I was like, but she was in
studio in Montenegro. We legalized tattooing in Montenegro, so I was working that for a little bit.
yeah. So I find like, oh yes, I found somebody, and I sent her a note, and I was like, this is like, I was so excited. I said, whenever I would see it, just think about it, my eyes would dance. And I finally found Friday, and she goes, oh, I'm in Montenegro, blah blah blah. I'm like, what? But eventually, I think I kept saying, are you back? Are you back? This was also during COVID.
Oh.
And so I found Friday, but then it was still, we had to wait longer too, because, we weren't sure what was going on, and things were being closed. And of course, the idea of tattooing during COVID wasn't a great idea. And then I just met Friday, and I said I wanted flowers. And then we just started talking about things. And this is what we came up. And I love orchids. And it's just, I cry about it because I just feel so much more beautiful. And I know beauty, and it's everybody, whatever anybody thinks about it, but when I say beautiful, it's like when I look at it, my eyes dance. And even every morning when I'm getting ready in the shower, or in the evening, I just look, I mean, even now, looking at it now, I just look at the lines, and I just get lost in the design. And and just to go from like I called it a Frankenboob, to go from a Frankenboob, to something that is really beautiful, makes me smile. I share my story to so many people that I know, because I also do that to give other women hope. And also, there is beauty, there can be beauty, whatever you term beauty for yourself afterwards. You don't have to get stuck. And that's, I'm not an exhibitionist, but for this type of cause, breast cancer is so difficult to go. I mean, I don't, there are so many cancers that are difficult to go through, but I think when you totally, become somewhat disfigured, where you barely recognize yourself. And then to come out with something that makes you smile is just amazing. And I have a lot of social anxiety. And sometimes when I'm in a strange situation, I'll say, if they only knew what was under this blouse. I'm really, yes.
Let me show you.
Yes, if you only knew. You would see me a lot differently. Of course, this experience with Friday and Helen, I mean, it was so emotional for me to be transformed. I remember because we did one side first and then the other side. And to see the first one, it was like, it still takes my breath away. Remembering how I got off the table, seeing it, I just shake because I'm like, oh my God, I just can't believe that it looks like this. I was just like,
so you could do both at the same time, Friday, because I'm sorry.
I think it took a lot of time. I think we decided to do one. And then unfortunately, the week thereafter, I broke my hip skiing. So I had one side tattooed and one side not, but I was still flashing just the one side. But I can flash both.
Before you mentioned you meet always different people, different women, who wanted to show, who maybe want to show after, like Sabine. So can you tell
My goal,
the
you're right,
story?
Carolina. My goal is to get them topless as possible and as often as possible. That's power.
It is. But Friday, so how is it, when you become almost friends with this, with all these women, because this is a very delicate moment of their lives, so they're sharing with you.
It's beautifully put, Catalina. I tell you, tattooing itself taught me how to love people. It taught me how normal the people that you never would expect have these powerful, powerful stories, and I get to hear that during the progression of my decades in the work. Now this is a penultimate work to me, the survivor stories and the connection and the fact that they're taking this risk. And so many of them, Sabina and Jan included, were not tattooed people. They're not folk like me, or they were not tattooed invariably. So watching that power take over, it's explosive. It's fantastic, and it's always emotional. Absolutely, always emotional, and we're always in touch.
Beautiful. But Sabine, this flower, was it done through Friday picture, through a flower that you love, or this is the flower that you love?
Yes. So I think we were chit-chatting, getting ideas, and then we came across, I remember, I love orchids. I always have orchids. And then Friday and I worked together with the placement. So we collaborated. We knew we wanted orchids, and then she helped sort of place them and, doing a little bit of detail and so forth. So we collaborated. But yeah. So I mean, I think from the beginning, it was very much of a collaboration. Of course, I would always defer to Friday. She's the artist. This is like what I like, but she's the artist as well as that tattoo person who knows, what works and what doesn't. But I think it's just fabulous.
If I might jump in, I'll have to say that tattooing is more of a service than an art. My bosses would argue, my masters, what I learned from, would argue that we are service people and that we get to be artists in service. And the more I do this work, the more I see that it's service. So it is absolutely collaborative, always collaborative. And we actually draw on their bodies. When we're doing this collaborative work, I take a pen, and we map them. We discuss our ideas, and both of these ladies have that experience. So yeah.
Fantastic. And Ellen, as you said, Sabine was your first, the first time that you saw what Friday was doing.
Sabine was the first woman I saw with like a reconstructed breast. And actually I don't have any tattoos myself, so come to think of it, that was the first time I really sat down and saw like the tattooing process. So there was a lot of firsts that day.
So you have one, Helen, now? No. And I jumped to Jan. Even before doing anything, I would like to quote one of your sentences that I saw and I loved it. You know, breast cancer has brought me many changes into my life, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And I wanted tattoos that truly represent me as someone whose soul flies free like a willow tree, but knows where she came from as a North Carolina girl. I love it. I love this.
Thank you.
Welcome, John. So can you share with us your story? So how did you meet Friday?
Oh my goodness, Carolina and everyone, thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of this conversation. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in no less Women's History Month, March 2021, on the very last day, March 30th, 2021. I chose to get a double mastectomy because one breast had more cancer than the other. And the other one was simply a ticking time bomb waiting to go off in my body. And being just on the cusp and very close to 50 and young enough to still embrace my femininity and my sense of what it means to me to be a woman, I did not want to go flat. I chose to get breast reconstruction and having implants, which ended up being the only choice for me. Not that I'm complaining. The second opinion and the first opinion were, okay, you kind of have enough fat to do something called, regrafting fat in different parts of your body, but you don't have enough of it. Okay. Well, breast reconstruction by way of implants was the course for me. And when I had my first breast reconstruction surgery, I thought about, well, now what am I going to do? Because I no longer have nipples. Like Sabina, I had skin sparing reconstruction. I had a skin sparing double mastectomy. Not be saved. So as I explored the different opportunities to transform my body, I initially thought, well, I'm going to get my nipples recreated through tattoos. Then the more I started to think about it, I've spent all my life, 40 something years, hiding my nipples because here they are as a woman. Sometimes we're cold and they get into the room before you can and have a conversation and speak up. They're right there front and center. Well, why do I want to do that again? Let me think about another way of transforming this trauma, this trial, this tragedy, and triumphing over that by converting what could be this scar that I have for life into something that is about my transformation. So earlier when Helen mentioned chrysalis, it's so interesting because that is the word that I use for this experience. It is a catalyst. It is a chrysalis moment in my journey of life on this big blue marble, this floating rock that we are on in this universe, to have the opportunity to transform this. So my social worker at the Dubin Breast Center here in New York, where the chief of the breast center was my surgeon, my social worker kept in touch with me even throughout 2022. Again, my surgeries were in 2021, but my social worker was still in my life on a regular interval. And I kept saying to her, I want to get tattoos to transform my scars. But I couldn't find anyone who specialized in breast cancer patients. In November of 2022, she sent me a link to a website, and that's when I saw Friday's work. I messaged Friday on Instagram to say, hey, we have a parallel path in the fight for human trafficking. I sit on the board of directors for Covenant House, New Jersey, which shelters youth who are experiencing homelessness. And part of their journeys is that they've been through human trafficking. I saw this post on Instagram where Friday was speaking about human trafficking. So I thought, wait a second, there's a woman who could help me transform my body, and she is mission aligned like I am. This is the person that I need to help me transform my body into a new narrative. And what this means for me, just shy of 50 years old at this point in my life. But it wasn't that easy because I had had an allergic reaction to Neosporin or some sort of bacitracin or something on my body, but I didn't know what it was at the time, just a couple of months before I found Friday. And my entire scars across my chest exploded like chicken pox. So I worried, what am I going to do now? Just a few months before I even found Friday, after my second reconstruction surgery, I was panic stricken, as in, wait, my body is fighting against something that's supposed to heal me. I cannot compute what is happening to me. So 9 something that morning to 1 in the afternoon, finding the chief of dermatology at NYU to diagnose me after they put 118 ingredients on my back for a patch test that was very, very complicated. They discerned that it was Neosporin, bacitracin, and some other things that I was allergic to. Fortunately, my body healed before I found Friday. In order to have the opportunity to get the tattoos. When I came to her, I had this vision for the 4 seasons, because that's what I felt like this journey was about in my life, all these different seasons. But then, as you just spoke about, Carolina, I thought more of, who am I? Okay, well, my mission in life is to be of service by making a meaningful and a sustainable difference in the lives of others by being of service, because my personal and my professional lives are inextricably linked. So, what is my story with these tattoos? I am a Carolina girl who's lived in New York City after graduate school for the past 24, 25 years. But then my soul really does fly free. Thank you, Erica Badu, for that lyric. Like a willow tree. But that is also a tree that is indigenous to the South, where I'm from, Charlotte, North Carolina. And through the collaboration with Friday, we arrived at this amazing depiction of my tattoo and being able to take what I would say is just something that is so emblematic of who I am, which is this Carolina girl, by having the dogwood there. And then the willow tree branches. We talked about how to make that flow, how to really bring that into the design of the tattoos. And it evolved into something that is just even more beautiful. You can see that original scar on the side that we ended up covering up with more of the willow tree leaves and branches. And you see me smiling about it because it truly is this thing that really transformed my body and this narrative for me. And it was also really incredible to meet Helen, because when Friday asked me, oh, do you mind if this photographer comes? She's a social documentary photographer. And I remember thinking yes and yes without hesitation. The only part in my journey where I took pause was because I do have a young child who's in school. I am a leader in the public service or public sector at a global consulting firm, Accenture. I do not mind mentioning that because my CEO, Julie Sweet, responded to my email when I announced to my Accenture family, close to probably 200 people or so, that I wanted to share. I'll be away from work for quite some time because I've been recently diagnosed. Well, my CEO, Julie Sweet, replied to my email in less than 20 minutes. We have over 700,000 employees across 120 countries. And I knew it was a personally crafted email because I used to sit in marketing and communications, and I would prepare, CEOs and presidents with their talking points and ready to go on camera for interviews. So I knew how to write that kind of well-crafted email or talking point, and it was not that. So for this woman the head of my firm, where I'm a leader in the public sector, which is about being of service, to reply to my email. I can tell you without crying this story because it's a couple of years later. However, it means everything to me. And then I also found out that Julie is a breast cancer survivor, which is not something I knew before I sent the email. So it is such a hallmark of my journey and thinking about how I could share this story with others by being of service, because this is not about me. It's not about, yes, I am benefiting from this amazing transformation, but I want other women to embrace a new sense of femininity and have agency and ownership over this true tragedy and trauma in their life that they could triumph over.
Really beautiful, beautiful, John. Because I think you both of you are describe it such in a very really nice way, as if it's been a very not as difficult as it seems, even though you're saying it's terrible situations, your body, but you are with a smile that that, and then again with this with Friday making you rebirth as it's incredible. It's incredible, because I think it's, as you said, Jen, it's a moment. All of us have moments, a divorce or a situation, a job, but and especially when we see, as Sabine was mentioning, even when your hair, it's in a different way. We don't accept each other, our how we look. But it must be incredibly difficult when something happens to your body, and you have to deal with every day. And now you can see, and you're so proud. It's a different. You're reborn, as Ellen was saying. So really, you're so brave. It's it's very, very difficult. But what is your advice, for instance, to all the women that are listening to us? Because as you said, I imagine you've been out of blue. This cancer can come anytime. So even if you follow a very healthy.
Yeah. I look, and this is only one of many things that I've been through, from surviving a 21 car pileup involving an 18-wheeler when I was 19 years old. I lost my mother suddenly when I was 27. So that was 20 years ago this year. I lost twins through sepsis. So this is only one of many things in my life that has been this reason why I've written a memoir. And it's not just about breast cancer, but it truly is taking life's trials, traumas, tragedies, and triumphing over them, because I believe in things happening through me, not to me. I don't dare ask why me. I think about, what is it that I can do to enable someone else to continue to believe in the goodness of humanity, of life, of connectedness, of how we all matter. We all absolutely matter. And especially for women in going through experiences. Now, there are men who are diagnosed with breast cancer too, and thinking about how we have ownership of our narratives. All of these decisions that we have to make in a breast cancer journey are very individual. They're very complex. They also impact our caregivers. They impact our children. They impact our network at work, our family at work. I consider myself as someone who has friends, not simply colleagues at work. So all of these people that are part of my ecosystem, how can I show up for them? Because again, I'm going to say it, this is not just about me. As in, what is the loving thing to do and why am I alive? this is part of the story of helping someone else. I'll give you one other quick story. I posted about my breast cancer journey on LinkedIn, which I was really scared to do because LinkedIn is primarily viewed as a professional platform in social media, as opposed to Instagram, where of course I own the images, I own the narrative. However, in posting on LinkedIn, one of my colleagues from 20 years ago reached out to me to say, oh, I know a book publicist and I know this person, you're working on your memoir, I could connect you. Oh, and by the way, my mother died from breast cancer and I haven't had a mammogram in 8 years. So that, to me, being able to be that kind of voice for the voiceless, or someone who could give a friend from 20 years ago the reminder to care for herself when her mother died from breast cancer, that to me is enough in being of service, which again comes back to, it's not just about Jan, it's about how can other people be enabled to have advocacy, to save other women's lives, to support each other through this experience.
Indeed, indeed, a voice for a voiceless, and we are not alone. I think this is very important for all of us, because it's when you talk to, now we talk to Friday, Helen, Sabine, to you, Jan, it's we are all, as you said, we have this empathy, and this is so important to share it with everybody else, because everybody, even your neighbor that you don't know, she has another story, and if you can make a difference in their lives, this is all what the Art Talks and the Art Talk magazine are trying to do. And this is Friday. Thank you, because as I said, we connected through a dear friend, George Bach. I call him George, even though he's called Georg.
But George. Yeah, he's George in New York as well, and in Miami.
yes, and so thanks to him, we reached you, and as I said, for us this is such an important issue, and as you said, Jan, that anybody can happen to anybody. So we are, and we're not alone. So thank you for all your beautiful words, and for to find the moment, because to make all these lives to be in one Zoom today, it's a very, very it's an honor for us.
Thank you for staying up so late, Carolina.
Yes, it's my party moment. Yes. It's a pleasure, Friday. It's really an honor that to finally have met you. We emailed each other, we WhatsApped each other, and again, it's a beautiful what you do, and thank you.
We really appreciate
it. Carolina, I have to make a plug for Friday that she has not made for herself, which one of the things that I discovered on the website when I found her in November of 2022 is that she is involved in providing these transformative tattoos for breast cancer warriors, survivors, thrivers for free at times in October. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Friday?
Yes.
Thank you, darling. Yes. I've been involved in 2 charities, one in the United States called Personal Inc. And survivors can register on the website personalinc.org, p-inc.org. And we have 16 cities around the United States where shops will open their hearts and close the doors. And we have a private tattoo party for breast cancer survivors. Really fantastic experience. Also in Europe, we have tittoo.org, TITTOO.org, and they do the same thing. So yeah, once a year in October, we have Breast Health Awareness Month in both United States and Europe, and we have those organizations there for women in need. Thank you, Jan, for bringing that up very much.
Fantastic. That's a really wonderful idea. Thank you, Friday. No, I think this is so important. It's so important, and it makes, you know, you touched with your tattoo, you know, everybody's souls, and you know, and look at your, it's a new life, Sabine and Jan, and look at your smile. It's so beautiful. So really, you made us my day. Thank you very much. So we can't wait to have you here, and maybe meet you in New York, but maybe having you all to the launch of the magazine on the 28th of September. So it would be really a wonderful honor to have you on.
Zurich, baby.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for bringing this also to everybody's attention and awareness to the world, you know, that this is available, because none of the doctors tell you about it. They just talk about nipples, which is fine and dandy, but not if you want something different. You know, it's nice to, how you say, not advertise it, but to bring it to people's awareness that you can do this.
This is incredible. You know, I didn't know either until speaking to this friend of mine in an NFT evening that we were talking, and in fact, you know how many women that are in Italy that nobody knows. So it's really, really important, Friday, to create this is why we're here. So
yeah, we have shops in Italy, especially Genziana. She's in Bologna. She does this beautiful work as well. So,
oh, fantastic! So we will put it all on the website. Thank you, Friday. Thank you, Helen. Again, through your pictures, we saw this beautiful Renaissance moment. Thank you.
Thanks for looking.
And Sabine and Jan, again, thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon wherever you are in the art world.
Thank you.
Ciao, ragazzi. Hopefully meeting you very soon. Bye.
Bye, ciao.
Yeah.
Ciao, ragazzi. Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll last. Yeah. We'll get it to the, yeah, that'll be different on the footage. Yeah. Okay, so now what we gotta do is match this one to each other. So that's gonna be maybe, we'll see if we nail it. So now we'll just keep doing it. Yeah, good. Good.
She's surprised. When I came in, I was like, I want Earth, Wind, and Fire. I want the 4 seasons.
And she's
want
right.
like fall, winter, spring.
Okay.
She had all these beautiful ideas.
Right.
They're very complicated though, and this simplified it.
Nice.
And that's how we go through the process, the creative process together. But breasts are asymmetrical, so
All breasts are.
you know.
I've never met a symmetrical breast.
Right, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right, she knows.
I work in the breast center.
Where
Doesn't it?
do you like, Janice?
At the Dubin Breast Center.
Where's that?
98th.
That one.
Yeah, 98th Street.
Up in Harlem?
Okay, so I'm recording myself seeing both of my beautiful big C tattoos for the very first time. Yeah, we did it. We did the thing.
What a beauty!
We did the thing.
Look at this goddess!
Oh, look at Helen.
Look
Helen the goddess too. Oh my
What are your
gosh, I
thoughts?
love them.
Love that. How was it uncomfortable?
There were parts of it that were